I finally got around to playing Horizon Zero Dawn, and after approximately 30 hours of game time, I'm pretty sure there's still plenty of content coming my way. So while I can't give the game a definitive rating yet, for 20 bucks, this game has certainly been worth it on the hour per cost scale. But while I was playing it, my mind kept going back to my game of the year for 2017, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. And given the settings for both games, with their post-apocalyptic, grand open worlds featuring L'Oreal models with convoluted and mysterious pasts, I don't think anyone could blame me. Yet the differences between the two games were the most striking for me in that the mechanics could be so fundamentally different in games that were both classified as open world. And what I mean by that specifically is that while both games tout themselves as exploration games, Horizon Zero Dawn is more of an open world combat game, and Breath of the Wild is an actual open world exploration game. And the mechanics that each game employs defend those classifications as I've made them. I'll start with the actual minute-to-minute gameplay differences, and then discuss more of the feedback loops that Nintendo and Guerrilla Games employed in their respective structures. But I just wanted to say that the impetus behind this project was that when I was playing HZD, I was running towards a giant building and got super excited about the prospect of climbing it. Oh yeah, the view from the top of that is gonna be sweet. Can't wait to see what the world looks like from up there. But instead I was trapped on the bottom floor with no way to climb up because there were none of those yellow markings that denote climbing spaces. I spent like 10 minutes jumping up because there was a ledge just out of reach that I wanted to get to so badly to see if there was an actual way to climb. Instead I had to find another building with the denoted climbing zones to go get the viewpoint that the game designers had set out specifically for that area. I don't know about you, but I gain no joy or excitement from climbing something by clicking X a bunch of times and pointing in the correct direction. There's just no player agency in it. It feels like a glorified cutscene because there's no choice. You're forced into specific paths at specific times, and that doesn't feel like exploration. It feels like doing multiplication tables. And at the end, you get rewarded with the end of a quest or some collectible. We'll be coming back to those in a minute. And then you descend to a specific spot by rappelling. From start to finish, the path is completely controlled by the developer. The difference between Breath of the Wild and Horizon Zero Dawn is stamina versus handholds. Breath of the Wild doesn't have specific paths for you to take. Any building, mountain, tower that you want to climb is climbable. There's no markings that denote, oh, you can jump here, or oh, there's probably a collectible, because any obstacles can be overcome assuming you have the stamina. If you see a mountain, you have to plan out when you're going to lunge to the top, where you can take breaks along the way, how much stamina fruit or potions you can consume while you make your way up there. Climbing requires a modicum of intelligence. You have to think critically about how to best tackle the obstacle, or when you need to bail so that you have enough stamina to sailcloth back to the ground. There's no thinking in clicking X while holding up. And while that's true for the smaller obstacles in Breath of the Wild, those obstacles could just be walked around anyway. Breath of the Wild's exploration is all about player choice. I chose to climb this dumbass mountain to get a better view, or just to see what was up there. Maybe there was something there, maybe there wasn't, but who cares? I chose to do it. It was my stamina bar to use as I wanted, not the developer's laid out path. Another clear mechanical difference is the design of tall necks versus that of Sheikah towers. Tall necks were really cool in theory. Can you imagine being on the plains and seeing this giant-ass giraffe UFO hybrid thing walking around and then using that as your viewpoint to figure out where to go next? I could, because that's exactly what I did with the Sheikah towers in Breath of the Wild. But tall necks aren't difficult to climb. The only challenge, because once again it's click X to climb, is finding the exact spot where Aloy says, seems like I can jump onto the tall neck from here. Waiting for it to get to that spot and then jumping onto the tall neck. I guess one of them has you kill a bunch of raiders first, but that's just more combat. Breath of the Wild has that one tower surrounded by a giant pit where you basically want to glide higher than the tower, because if you don't, you're likely to run out of stamina since it has no pit stops along the way. And also one where it's surrounded by water, so you either have to kill everything or avoid getting hit on your way up, or that one that has ice around the whole thing, so you have to burn it all away before you can start your ascent. Okay, admittedly I'm stretching a bit, and there are plenty of Sheikah towers with no actual difficulty outside of managing your stamina and sitting on the platforms, and the main point I'm trying to make here is that you can climb them whatever way you want. Let's talk about what happens at the top. In both, you insert your high-tech doohickey into the thing. It reveals more of the map, just the terrain in the case of Breath of the Wild, while it also tells you where the machines are in Horizon Zero Dawn. And after that in Horizon Zero Dawn, you rappel down, you get this cool blue light thingy, and then you move on. The tall necks aren't really tall enough for you to look around and figure out points of interest, and there's no mechanic for that either. In Breath of the Wild, sometimes there are people up there to chat with, but more importantly, the towers are a great chance to use your viewpoint to figure out where to go next, using a mechanic we'll talk about in a second. You circle around the thing, looking through the eyeglass and determining, oh, this looks cool. Oh, this must be my next destination. Oh shit, a dragon? And then you descend in the direction of the place that you want to go next. Speaking of the towers, it's worth talking about the maps and how these encourage certain behaviors, specifically waypoints versus beams of light. In Horizon Zero Dawn, you set a waypoint. It not only appears on your map, but it also gives you a path to follow. And I kind of doubt that I need to explain why that may be detrimental to exploration. Breath of the Wild has the 5 glowing markers that you can set, either on your map or through the lens, and make your way towards it at your leisure. If you have more than 5 things that you want to mark, like I usually did, I set a star sticker on the thing, so that I'd be able to go back and check it out later. Horizon Zero Dawn sets a fast path for you specifically because it doesn't have anything it wants you to discover along the way. The special paths are for collectibles, and the special view zones, whereas Breath of the Wild is comfortable with you leisurely heading to something that catches your eye, regardless of whether something will be there or not. The mechanics of Breath of the Wild are more in tune with the concept of exploration, whereas Horizon Zero Dawn wants you to explore in very specific moments at very specific locations. But let's talk about what happens once you've explored, specifically the feedback loop. The feedback loop for exploration in Horizon Zero Dawn are completely focused around the combat. When you find one of the mugs or the metal flowers, the reward is a box full of modifications, which you either use for combat either offensively or defensively. The idea of exploring for the collectibles when the payoff is something that you can already get just by hunting machines or buying from merchants just feels bad. There's nothing that makes exploration easier or more fun or anything. The modifications are cool, don't get me wrong, and customizing your combat capabilities is definitely the right call in a game focused on combat, but Breath of the Wild goes about it in a slightly different manner. When you explore, you find shrines, which give spirit orbs, which you can trade in for heart containers, combat, or stamina, exploration, and combat. Some of the shrines in addition give climbing gear, which makes exploration easier. The quests also give you things to aid in exploration. When I got the Zora tunic, the first thing I thought was, oh, I can think of a bunch of waterfalls I want to check the tops of now. And Rivali's Gale makes the start of large climbs even easier. Not everything feeds back into that. Most of the champion abilities are combat oriented, unless you count jumping off of cliffs to trigger Mipha's Grace as an exploration tool. But even some of the side quests make exploration a little bit easier, like when I got the sand and snow boots from that dude outside of Gerudo Town. I felt goddamn rewarded for veering off the path, whether with a new discovery like the Satori Mountain stuff or random ass chests that I pulled from the river. Your tools, the Magna Beam, bombs, Ice Maker, all those things work for exploration too. That more or less covers everything I wanted to talk about for this video about why I think that the exploration frankly sucks in Horizon Zero Dawn. But before you all start thinking I hate this game, I want to highlight the fact that I don't. I was just disappointed because the world was just as intriguing as Breath of the Wild, but it didn't have the same freedom or scale to it. The data points are interesting and I suppose count as narrative exploration, but unless you're interested in the specifics of the story, that's not really a reward. I just was reminded of how I spent hours going over every inch of the map in Breath of the Wild looking for the last few shrines and had a blast while doing it, while Horizon Zero Dawn makes me want to fast travel everywhere. This wasn't an exhaustive discussion, certainly. A discussion of how the HUDs play into this kind of thing would also be valuable, but that might be better in the context of other games like Just Cause and Skyrim. Horizon Zero Dawn's combat is fantastic and deep enough to make the game exciting. It just doesn't make it a good exploration game.